Moving on our agenda here, we're to the public comment section. We have quite a few public comments. We have Lorraine. We've got 2 minutes on the comments, and so she'll chime in when we hit that mark. So appreciate you watching the clock here. We'll start off with Russell Stevenson with John Arthur on deck.
Chair Huntsman, this is Lorraine. Before we start, there's a little bit of change to the list.
Okay. Well, I thought we just had it updated.
Well, there's a couple you don't know. David Mortensen and Carolyn Charette have asked to be taken off the list.
Okay.
And then we have our 3 former board members here to give comment as well. Sean Newell, Jennifer Gravitt, and Lorianne Thorpe.
Well, okay, we'll go to our previous board members last. Let's go with Russell first. And then just make sure I get through these, okay, Lorraine? So Russell Stevenson.
It looks like he's not on right now. We are a little early, but yeah, I don't see his name.
Well, let's go to our previous board members. Jenny Gravitt, are you available to come on?
Just 1 second. I'm in a class, but I think I'm ready, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and start.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair Huntsman, Superintendent Dixon, and state board members for allowing public comment today. Happy New Year to you all. My name is Jenny Gravitt, and I'm a junior high English teacher. First of all, I want to thank you for all the hard work you put in on behalf of education, your time, your thought, your study, and your heart. In particular, thank you for your commitment to equity, to honoring your mission statement of creating equitable conditions for student success. That is what I want to comment on today, creating equitable conditions for student success. On your agenda, you will be voting on a resolution against racism and in support of equity. I urge you to vote in favor of this resolution, and I thank Board Member Hansen for his diligent work on this. This resolution aligns with the mission, but not only that, it aligns with real human beings, real students who crave leadership, education, safety, and equitable treatment. I want you to listen to some data from 2018 and 2019. 36% of students of color scored an 18 or higher on the ACT, compared with 70.4% of white students. 28% of our students of color were reading on grade level by 3rd grade, compared with 53.4% of our white students. While the RISE data showed an over 50% proficiency rate for our white students, students of color were only 28% proficiency rates in math, science, and language arts. Now, unless you believe that some students are less capable of learning, which I do not believe, and I cannot believe any of you subscribe to that, then you can't ignore this data. We can do better, we have to do better. And so in passing this resolution, I also would implore you to amend it in a way that would bolster it beyond the status quo. Perhaps consider adding a Be It Resolved section that recommends that all Utah schools begin a reflection and internal examination of their own policies and practices. And to dovetail that, I would ask that you include a Be It Resolved section that directs USBE staff to provide support to districts and charters for this reflection and internal examination. The mission of creating equitable conditions for all students has a real chance to be more than words. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great meeting. Welcome new board members, and enjoy the rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, is Lorianne Thorpe available?
I am.
Okay. The mic is yours.
Thank you. I would like to second what Jennifer talked about. I would like to encourage the board to consider adopting the resolution that will be before you today. I think we just saw an incredible example of what can happen in schools when we focus on equity and access. And I'm very much in support of this resolution and agree with Jennifer that I think it could use some bolstering as far as what schools can and can do to focus on denouncing racism and embracing equity. So thank you for your consideration, and it's nice to see you all.
Okay, thank you. As the Sean Newell, good to see you. I believe you're on the list to speak.
Good morning, and welcome all the new board members. I want to take a different angle and just bring some, try to invoke some thought here. I am in favor of the resolution and supporting it, and I hope that the board chooses to move forward. But I wanted to just get your mind and your mental juices flowing, just for a little while. To fully understand equity and how it is essential for our educational institutions, we must first be willing to understand what, where, and how inequities within a system exist. We must understand history and how systems have skimmed the surface of correction and awareness of the disparate impacts experienced by many of the students, staff, and administrators that currently seek acceptance and inclusion in spaces that do not consider their individual milieus. What we want to discuss are the rules and policies that disrupt the cyclical inequities within systems that exist based on fears. Trying to craft the safest words and circling around scary topics will not move our educational system forward. To do this, our systems of education must relinquish biases and ideologies that are not innate, but becoming barriers to not only the education of our young people, but to the extended education of those charged with educating. The necessity of our young people, staff, and administrators to know what they are not, that they are not only safe, but that they are welcomed, but also that they are valued. And this is one of the most critical elements of an equitable environment. Our students, teachers, staff, and administrators can only be their best when there is a meritocratic system in place that allows them the ability to contribute and grow as equals to all. Our country has a long and vast history that includes some atrocities that, as a country, we are still reticent to acknowledge or consider when we are in the thralls of educating our students and ourselves. If we refrain from allowing our system to deliver equitable historical content to our students, we are nurturing further misunderstanding. As leaders, we are all in this great place where we have a wonderful opportunity to shift the prevailing narratives of exclusion and disregard and move toward bridging and understanding so that our society will grow and we as people and as a nation will all be able to prosper in productivity and union. The skills and knowledge to make it in this world include one of the most critical ingredients to formidable change. And some of these ingredients include empathy, understanding, knowing, and honest collaboration. These are necessary in addressing any gaps where inequities may exist. We are charged with being leaders of change. Let me close by saying, don't be afraid to face the fear of change. This can be done. Be brave and resilient by being willing to do the hard work and the uncomfortable work of being leaders. Thank you very much for giving me this time.
And thank you, Sean Neal. Okay, next is Russell Stevenson ready to come on? Lorraine, do you see Russell?
I don't see his name.
Okay. John Arthur, that Access member. Is John here?
I am. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair Huntsman. All right. My name is John Arthur. I'm a proud member of the Access Committee, 2021 Utah Teacher of the Year, and I'd like to share a quick story with you. Last year, I was out at recess when I saw a boy slap his friend, a young Asian student, hard across the face. I ran over and I asked, "Why did you just slap him?" The boy laughed and said, "It's okay, Captain. We're just playing a game." I said, "I can see your handprint on his cheek. What game is this?" He said, "I'm just slapping the coronavirus off him so we don't get sick." Later today, you'll be considering a resolution intended to support children just like this, experiencing racism and xenophobia in Utah schools. The question is, what kind of support do these specific kids need most? In our original memo to the board, the Access Committee wrote, "We must strive to intentionally engage in anti-racist practices to ensure students feel safe and welcomed at school." Similarly, in the recently released Utah Compact on Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, signed by the governor, legislators, and local leaders, it states, "Unraveling centuries of internalized and systemic racism requires bold anti-racist actions and policies right now." Anti-racist policies, practices, and actions. Those are the supports our students need in school, and as an advisor to this board, I urge you to include a statement promoting anti-racist practices in Utah schools in the resolution today. What is it to be anti-racist? Well, I'd love to speak at greater length later today about it, but right now, time is short. So simply put, the opposite of racism isn't not racist. It's anti-racist, to work in opposition to racism. Instead of teaching students about race in response to racist acts, you teach them about race to prevent racist acts. It's proactive, not reactive. On the playground with the boys, denouncing racism was talking with the kids after the fact. Anti-racist teaching stops kids from getting slapped in the face in the first place, providing a more culturally celebratory and safe learning environment for all the kids who need it most. Thank you.
And thank you. Well, we're still with Access, I believe, is the chair of Access, Rosanna Benelli-Sag. Did I say that right? Rosanna, are you on?
I don't see her on yet.
Okay. Well, let's go to Heidi Matthews, UEA. Are you in?
I'm in.
There you are.
Thank you very much. I just want to begin with appreciation for all of the and gratitude for so much of your service, especially those of you who are leaving the Board of Education. And the UEA stands in full support of the resolution that you'll be considering today. I appreciate the concepts and words of John Arthur about the bold anti-racist policies and practices. The UEA also stands on a firm commitment to anti-racist policies and practices in one of our 4 strategic pillars of our strategic goals and plans is for a deep commitment to racial justice in education and the eradication of the culture of white supremacy. So we very much look forward to working with you and support the passage of that resolution. I'd like to welcome the new board members as well, and I'd really like to spend some time, if you're agreeable, in getting to know you and again, how we can work together to fulfill our joint mission of, supporting kids and public education. UEA celebrates our continued commitment with the State Board of Education, particularly, and the I should say the Public Ed Coalition and all education stakeholders, particularly with the celebration of what occurred in the base budget in terms of education funding, and are committed to working throughout the session to continue to focus on health and safety of all of our educators and students in our schools, particularly during this this pandemic. We are really hoping that all of us will come together and limit those bills for public education and just kind of put a stop sign that unless an educator is asking for it, let's just don't do it this year. And because we have so much on our plate, and I see that many of your bills that you'll be considering today and the legislative priorities that you've asked to be put forward have a lot to do with restoration of many of the cuts that occurred with very few actual new things, and again applaud the efforts to be looking for those areas to address our student needs, particularly in this pandemic with the at-risk areas. And just in closing, I ask that you again that we can stand strong together in urging a limited number of bills this year, and again celebrating that base budget. I don't know what the legislature is going to do without us, bugging them for that 6% on the WPU when we already have it in the base budget. So, but I'm sure that UEA will find something. And again, just standing guard for any bills that siphon money, public dollars to private entities, and for new programs that haven't been sufficiently explored. And again, just looking at the needs of our educators so that they can be there for their students. So thank you all for all that you do, and again, full support of the anti-racist policies and resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell Stevenson is logged on now, just reporting my presence.
Okay. Well, while you're on, let's go to you next. Russell.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. My name is Russell Stevenson, and I'm here to comment on the resolution denouncing racism and embracing equity in Utah schools. I hold a PhD in African history, and I've spent over a year in Nigeria researching American support for Nigerian higher education. I am a firm and unapologetic believer in the founding ideals of our constitutional republic. And I, with no hesitation, declare, may God shed his grace on the United States. And because of these beliefs, I am a firmly committed advocate for diversity and inclusion as fundamental components of preserving the fabric of our top quality school system. And to this end, I advocate for this resolution denouncing racism and embracing equity in Utah schools to more fully reflect and represent accepted Utah state standards for social studies education. Specifically, much of the language of the resolution denouncing racism and embracing equity does not directly engage the experience of minoritized peoples, nor does it directly engage the issues undergirding white supremacy in American history. When we cultivate an American school system that is conducive to diversity and inclusion, we aspire to the highest ideals of our American republic. But the resolution does not engage the realities of America's long walk to freedom, but it must. Our state standards dictate that when we teach our history, we must teach it in a way that acknowledges the experiences of people such as Black Americans, Indigenous Americans, Latina Americans, and other racial minorities. Instead, it urges people to really ignore some of the realities of racial history in the United States. It does not engage the realities that have faced many ethnic minorities in American history. And in order for us to truly believe that all histories matter and all lives matter, we must unapologetically embrace a resolution that more directly targets the teaching of these experiences. Ultimately, if we want to claim that we are empathetic teachers and instructors to our students, all of our students, then we cannot do so without acknowledging the realities of these histories. Additionally, in addition to amending the resolution denouncing racism and embracing equity in Utah schools, I also advocate for the ACESS committee to provide a monthly verbal report in full committee meeting so that we may more fully understand the kinds of diversity and inclusion efforts that are being undertaken in Utah schools. Presently, they are often presented in committee, and they're not really delivered for public consumption. By including this in the monthly full board meeting, then anyone attending the meeting will be able to see for themselves how diversity and inclusion efforts are being incorporated in Utah schools today.
That's time.
Thank you.
And thank you. Lorraine, do you see, I'm not seeing Kevin or Rosanna on the call.
Rosanna is on.
Oh, okay. Access Chair Rosanna, are you ready to speak?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So I can get started, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me this time to provide a statement and to also, I guess, talk about our resolution, or not resolution, our recommendations, and then also provide a statement about the resolution. I do appreciate the Utah State Board of Education addressing this issue and the recommendations that we had provided, and that, they're already going into addressing it with the resolution that they're going to create. And so I just want to say good morning to everybody. I am the chair of the Access Committee, and I also work for the Utah Division of Multicultural Affairs. And I want to recognize our exceptional committee members who have invested their time in advancing efforts throughout the state as it deals with educational equity. And we also appreciate just, the comments that have been provided in the anti-racist work that we're trying to move forward with. And so when we talk about workplace culture, the culture of our state, the culture of our school systems, and by creating this resolution, a solid resolution, it takes action on how we want all of our students to feel included and valued. And the reason why I want to make sure we are talking about students is because that's why we're here, and that's who we are representing, and that's who we are trying to make a safe space and a brave space for our students of Utah. And what we're trying to do is we are doing the best we can to advocate for our students who are historically marginalized, underrepresented, and just make sure that there is a safe space for them to be able to excel in school academically. And then just the importance of the resolution that the USBE board denouncing racism is very crucial in providing that statement because in the current climate of the national and local discourse rooted in race relations and reconciliation, in order to eliminate racism, we must first acknowledge its existence. And I know that the Utah Compact does recognize that, which was read by Governor the previous Governor Herbert. And so we want to make sure that this we do represent that, and then that we must first acknowledge racism, and that as we are looking at Ibram Kendi's definition of racism, that it's not to call out people, but that the resolution is to call out people's behavior, and that we all have to engage in these anti-racist behaviors. And so we have to make sure that we are looking forward to how do we engage in making sure our students feel welcomed in school, and then that they feel safe as well too. So I thank you to the board for taking this courageous step to empower and support our students. But we also, as the Access Committee, want to make sure that the terminology anti-racism is included in there, and that we do recognize also the hard work that the USBE board is taking in addressing the recommendations that we have provided. So we do thank you for everyone just addressing this, because we want to make sure our students feel safe. And I also want to recognize John for his comment as well too. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lorraine, do you see Kevin listed? I think
I do not.
I don't either. Okay, well, this will conclude our public comments section of our meeting. Thank you for the comments.